In this video, we're going to look at the solution to number 10 on the Practice 8.1 worksheet dealing with arithmetic sequences in series. This is the more complicated problem for it. We're asked to find n for the series where a1 is -4, the difference is 4, and the sum is 80. Now, I'm going to make a list off to the side of all the variables in the formulas that we have for sequences and series on it. A1, we have an a sub n, we have a difference, we have an n, and we have a sum. If I were to think of my sequence formulas and my series formulas, those are the variables that are in them. I know it's listed off here, but I'm going to still fill it in. Is I know a1 is -4. I have no idea what my last term in that sequence, in that series is. I know my difference is +4. I have no idea how many terms are in that sequence. So I have two unknowns here, but I do know my sum is 80. And so when I think about it, I have to go through and figure out what is n. So like the end game, what I'm trying to actually solve for is I'm trying to find that number. I am trying to find n. Now, how do I go about getting there? Well, I'm going to start with one formula just to see what I have. If I'm going to deal with it, I'm given a sum of 80. So I'm going to probably start with that formula. So for an arithmetic series, the sum is take the number of terms, divide by 2, multiply by a1 plus a sub n. I mean, that's the sum formula for an arithmetic series. I'm just going to plug in what I know. Well, I know my sum is 80. I have no idea what n is. That's one of my unknowns. That's what I'm trying to find. Divided by 2. I know my first term is -4, and I don't know what a sub n is. And so you may get stuck there. But you have to realize if you're missing information in a series formula, go to the sequence formula. So if I'm going to kind of think about the way we did this before is we have, I'll set up the table, we have our number and we have our term at that position. So we have our position, the term. So the first term is -4, my difference is +4. So if I were to write out my sequence, it would look like that, and then dot, dot, dot. We don't know where we're stopping, but I'm trying to find out if I add them, when do I get to 80? But let's write the equation. What is my zero term for this? So if I'm adding 4 to go this direction, then I'm going to subtract 4 to go this direction. So my zero term is -8. So the equation, when it comes to this, the equation for the sequence is t sub n. Your difference is kind of like a slope, is 4n minus your zero term. So well, it's 4n plus your zero term, so 4n minus 8. That is the formula for the arithmetic sequence. The problem is we don't know what n is. That's what we're trying to figure out. So if we don't know n, we don't know a sub n. They're attached together. They're linked together. So this problem is different than number 9 because in number 9 you're able to actually plug in an n value doing the same idea. In this case you can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 4n minus 8. That is the equation that can be used to find a sub n. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to have 80 equals n over 2 -4, but I am going to replace my a sub n with the equation, with our arithmetic sequence formula, which is 4n minus 8. And then I'm going to solve that equation. I'm going to give myself some room to organize the work. So let's go with the inside first. I'm going to distribute at the same time. So 80 equals, if I distribute n over 2 times -4, -2n. I have n times 4n divided by 2, so that's plus 2n squared, minus 8n divided by 2, so minus 4n. I see it's a quadratic. So since it's a quadratic, I want to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract that 80 over. I'm going to put it in standard form, so the 2n squared goes first, and I get negative 6n when I combine my like terms. I notice these are all even, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. N squared minus 3n minus 40. And if I set this up for factoring, what multiplies to negative 40 and adds to negative 3 is going to be a negative 8, positive 5. So n minus 8 times n minus 5. So n is 8 and n is negative 5. However, think about it, you can't have a negative position in the arithmetic sequence for it. So we ignore this one, and our answer is 8 for it. So this one's a little, I say this is the most complicated problem, but the process when it comes to solving it is similar to number 9. Except for once you get to this point in number 9, once you get to here, you have the ability to plug in 12 and find this number. What number 10 does is it removes that ability and asks you to really treat it like a system of equations. And technically what I did was I said a sub n equals 4n minus 8, and I did substitution into here. So number 10, treat it like a system of equations for it. Hopefully this helps you with number 10 on it, and hopefully it gives you a, maybe if you're stuck on number 9, a starting point for that one as